Today's episode is extra special because we have our dear friend and certified connection codes coach, Elijah Runyan, in the studio with us today.
In person.
And he has been on 2 or 3 other podcasts with us. And I'm going to be honest, those are in my top favorite podcasts. When you have come on, I'm just like, yes, I connect with that. Yes, I understand that. And so I'm just so thrilled to have you back on and in person with us.
So fun.
And we today are going to be talking about numbing pain and what happens when we, stuff things down. We use coping elements instead of processing our pain, the effects of it, what it can look like, and what the alternative is. And so welcome to the Connection Codes podcast. This is the podcast where we break open our emotions that take us from being disconnected to connected in our relationships and in ourselves. I am your host, Tara Wages, and joining me is marriage and family therapist, clinical sexologist, Dr. Glenn Hill, and his incredible wife, Phyllis Hill. And together, they have founded the Connection Codes, which is the guide to human connection. And we're so glad you're here.
Yes, hello world.
Hi, friends. Well, it is so fun that Elijah is in town and hanging out with us as we're finishing up our first coaching cohort. And I don't know that he knew that he was coming into town to do all the work that we've thrown at him, but he has graciously jumped in and done a ton of things. So thank you, Elijah. And we're always thrilled when people are in the studio and can actually be doing this live with us instead of remotely. So thank you. And I know we've talked about this a lot, just things that are on your heart and things that you want to share through our podcast. But as you know, we just mentioned this, we start a lot of our podcasts now with the wheel. And so we would love just to do that this morning before we dive into our topic.
Okay. Should I do it topic specific to this podcast?
Oh, you can. If you can, yes, whatever's firing for you.
I can.
Okay.
I can do it. But then I'm going to get all emotional right off the top.
Okay.
Since we're talking about coping, I'll do it about that. Tons and tons of shame and guilt around that. Especially just my kids seeing it and it becoming a normal part of our life for them. So lots of shame and guilt, lots of fear that I will have not changed fast enough, that they will have seen too much and take that on as theirs. Hurt. I think I hurt my own feelings, honestly, just that I let it get as far as it did, and tons of sad about that. Sad about just the pain that I've caused people in my life. And I think I have core level anger, just that so many people deal with coping in general, but that society has made it really normal and almost weird if you don't do certain things. Especially when it comes to alcohol, it's the only thing that people ask you why you're not doing it. So that's some core level anger there. Tons and tons of joy in connection codes and helping me just process what's happening for me and really getting to some of the root of the pain that I was numbing. So I think I got them all.
What about lonely?
Lonely. Oh, shoot. Yeah, tons of lonely in the process of stopping coping with all sorts of things, because there's not a lot of people that understood the process, and so it was like I kind of had to go on the journey on my own to really process the pain that I was feeling. So lots of lonely there.
Wow, so good. Wow, that's really powerful. And of course, because you did it issue specific, it kind of jumps right into the topic. And just for our listeners, maybe give a little bit of background of just that journey and how you kind of feel like that story developed for you.
Yeah, I would say the last almost 2 decades, I'm 42, so 20 some odd years, I have numbed pain, physical and emotional pain in one way or another. And it morphed over the years and got worse and better. And there was times where it was really bad and times where it wasn't bad at all. But in general, that's been the theme of my life, is some of that is trauma informed, that I just didn't want to be in pain. And I just would do anything to not be in pain. So then 2020 hit, we had some really intense family stuff happen that was really traumatic. And that kind of just sent me further down the road of like, I really don't want to be in pain. And so I would say the coping mechanism of choice for me was alcohol. And I'm a functional person. I never drank during the day. And it wasn't like drinking at work. And, I was just, but definitely always looking forward to the end of the day and always looking forward to getting rid of that pain, and even looking for excuses to pretend like it was a joy experience. And that's why I was doing it. So for example, inviting friends over more often, just so that it was like, that's a good excuse to drink. And then it won't be because I'm coping. It'll be because I'm having fun with friends. But really all along it was numbing pain. And then it was last year, I just got to the point where I realized I couldn't regulate my emotions anymore during the day because I wasn't processing the pain. The pull to numb the pain during the day started to happen. And I never went there to where I was drinking all day, but I could feel myself like, ooh, I'm in so much pain, and just numbing at night isn't working anymore. And I couldn't regulate. So I just was like, and I have 4 beautiful kids. And I was like, I can't do this anymore, and I'm a Christian. And so I really felt like the Lord was like, hey, bud, it's time. I want to show you some things. And so it was weird. It was like, I had tried to stop several times, and go, a week, 2 weeks. And it's like, and the best way I can put it is like biting down on a stick. You're like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it, but this time was different because I had tools. And so I just put it down and started processing what was happening for me all the time. And fortunately, my wife is a connection coder. And just what came out of it was really, really interesting for me. What happened is I realized, shoot, I'm in pain a lot more than I thought I was.
Wow.
A lot more than I thought I was. And we would go into situations that I thought were joy experiences for me, where I would normally drink. And I wouldn't be drinking, and realize, oh no, this was actually a pain experience the whole time. I just wasn't processing it. So it's been very interesting, even coming home from work and realizing, oof, that's a pain experience for me, because I suffer with some disorder psyche where I come home and I'm just like, I've been in pain all day. And then I come home and I'm like, ooh, there's pain there. And I would just default right to numbing it. And so been on that journey. I went almost a year, and then, just processing with my wife, because a big thing for me is freedom. I think freedom is a high priority for me. And so I don't want to be bound to it, and I don't want to not be able to do it as well, because that's not freedom. But I want to be in total control over myself and constantly processing what's happening for me. So that's kind of where we are today. I just have realized, whoa, you were in a lot of pain. And in stripping away the numbing, I found the source of a lot of it, which is a whole nother story. But found the source, and then was able to go after, that's why in this situation that I thought was a joy experience, it's not a joy experience. Actually, it's painful because so anyways,
Hey, you have to expand on the one piece, because you just flew by it. You said, oh, and my wife's a connection coder too. Just that's a gold mine. That's so huge. And I get it. You're just telling your narrative, but it's like that changes everything. Co-regulation, even just the science of that. I always say 1 + 1 does not equal 2. 1 + 1 is exponential in relationships. So give it just a little bit more about that as far as what that meant for you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where, with the lonely, there was lonely, and I was experiencing something that there's no way for her to really understand, but I would not have been able to do it without her. Just period. Wow. And I was actually telling Bridget this the other day. I think that for men, when a woman sees you at your weakest and says, I'm here, it like pulls out of you this desire to be better.
Wow.
And that's what she did for me.
Yeah.
So it was beautiful. I mean, it was like, and we can get into like how I processed a lot, because there'd be times where I'd be driving home from work and I'm like flooded with joy about having a drink, and then flooded with shame that I was flooded with joy about having a drink. And, you know, at first it was like I'd get home and I'd bite down on the stick and I'd be like, oh, and then I just started telling her.
Yeah.
But that was a shame experience to go, honey, I have so much joy thinking about having a drink tonight and not being in pain. And she's like, and, you know, historically, my thought would be that she'd be like, I can't believe you have joy about drinking.
Yeah.
Like, well, I thought you were not drinking. But instead she's like, oh yeah, I get that. Wow, that's a lot. You know, what's happening for you? I'm like, I don't know. I'm in a lot of pain, and I'd have a lot of joy thinking about not being in pain, you know, but then I have shame about it. And so by the time I got home, I no longer had that drive to drink. It was just gone. And, it wasn't biting down on a stick anymore. It wasn't like this willpower, self-control thing. It was like, nope, I flushed it out. And especially for the first 3-4 months, it was constantly. It was, you know, flushed out. I get home and then I'm like, oh, flooded with pain. Okay. Oh man, what's happening there? And I think that has been a really cool thing, is now it's a reminder to get curious about me. So it's this really external thing that it creates some internal, just looking at what's going on. When I want to drink, when I feel that need, I go, ooh, there must be some pain here. It's super, you know, like in instances and circumstances that I wouldn't think would be painful, I go, oh, there's something here. And I've found so many places to process. So yeah, processing with Christina has just been life-changing.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's so much power in that. I saw a video, and it was a lead-in to a whole series that this guy does, and he may be a great guy. I have no idea. I'm not judging him, but in the video, he said, never come down off of your white horse. Never let your wife, your kids, your friends, anybody see you other than the hero.
Wow.
And it's such a great sale. I mean, it sounds awesome. It's like, yeah, I'm the man. And, you know, what you just presented is the opposite. It's like, no, just be a human. Just, and it doesn't matter who sees you.
Absolutely.
Certainly for those who are close to you, you know, your partner. And that actually is bonding and connecting.
Absolutely.
But this whole presentation I saw, which again sounded really convincing, is that no. What Elijah needs to do is to be the knight in shining armor. Never let Christina see the real, authentic, vulnerable you. And he went on to say that if you ever do, she will never respect you again. Wow. And I'm sure he believes that. Wow. And unfortunately, he's influencing a lot of people to believe that same thing, which all that says is, and you know, it's one of my go-to phrases, is Elijah, stop experiencing what you're experiencing. And if you accidentally do, shut up about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, when you word it like that, it doesn't sound like good, but that's what we do all the time. And men and women, but we're telling people all the time, just shut up. We don't want to hear. Don't experience what you experience, and just shut up.
And what's cool is that because she's a connection coder too, she would go, ooh, I got a lot of fear about that.
Yeah. Wow.
And instead of me going, yeah, but I'm not going to, come on. I'd be like, oh yeah, dude, totally get that. I would too, if I was you. So it went both ways. And so she got to hear me and my pain, and then my pain, and she got to express what was happening for her. And so we just danced like that, and it worked really well. And the fact that she wasn't hiding that she felt fear, I'm like, of course she has, because this has been a problem for us. Okay, I get that. Yeah, you know, so it was beautiful. Yeah.
You know, I would love to break down the whole idea of the coping side of it, because you said this started young. You were maybe 20 when this started for you. And were you aware at that time that you were coping with pain by using alcohol? Or was it just like, everybody's drinking, it's what you do at parties, I'm just going to drink because that's what's fun, and that's more of the fun than, oh, I'm coping with pain by drinking?
I mean, I think from this, at the beginning, no. I think at the beginning it was innocent, but there was moments woven in between those 20 years, even at the beginning, where I'm like, this is beyond just having a good time. And I could feel it in my heart. Like there was something going on for me that I'm like, oh, this is definitely escape, and it just happened to be pills and alcohol but for some people it's food, and for some people it's porn, and for some people it's video games, but for me it was those things. It was like, that was the easiest way for me not to feel pain.
Totally.
And I think sometimes we think that, oh, this is a joy experience, so it's okay. But I'm like, yes, it was joyful. There was lots of times where I was at parties and it was super fun, but it was all rooted in trying not to feel pain. It wasn't like this authentic joy where it's celebratory or whatever. It was like, I really just want to not feel. So, yeah.
Well, and I love that you just brought up that, because if you're coping with pain by using a substance, because it can be video games or television, or, I mean, it even sometimes can be what we view as healthy, like
absolutely, even exercise,
right? Where you're like, oh, I'm using that to cope with the pain because I don't know. Either I don't want to deal with the pain, or I don't know how to deal with the pain. And so, it is interesting because I think for many of us, we don't even realize that we are that this has become a coping mechanism.
Right.
Like, I think that even there's so many things when you start off young, even with video games. We have friends who they call themselves latchkey kids. So when they were younger, their parents worked. So they would just come home from school and immediately get on, whatever it was back in the day, Nintendo, and play for hours. Well, then they become adults, and then they become dads and, husbands and dads. But that's the thing they go back to. At this point in their lives, it is more of a coping thing.
Sure.
Like they're coping with the stressors of life or the pain of life. And so go back to the moment, especially for our listeners and us sitting here with you, just because I don't know that we always know when we've crossed over, when it was just part of life. And then all of a sudden it's actually masking pain, coping with pain. And how do you know that that's where you are? Like, what happened for you where you realized this isn't just for joy and fun anymore? This has now become bigger than that.
Wow. So it goes back to the freedom thing for me. If I no longer have a choice to do it or not, and that can be gray sometimes, but I think it took some real self-reflection because let's be honest, we can excuse our way into any behavior. Yeah. We just can. And I was a master at that. I was a master at figuring out a way for this to be okay. Like, I just was. And I could talk myself into anything being okay. But then when I realized, like, I don't have a choice. Like, I'm coming home and this is not, like, I'm not choosing this. My pain is driving this. Like, I'm being driven to this thing by it. Something else, internal, external, whatever, it's driving me. I'm not choosing this every moment. And it wasn't until I removed it that I saw the pain that was controlling the behavior. So I had to take it away for a season to go, oh, wow, I really was not in control of this. And I would say that for me, I don't know if it is for everyone else, and that may be difficult with different coping mechanisms. Like, food would be really hard because it's like you have to have food to eat. Right. But I feel like we all know the line. We all know where it's like, I love ice cream, but I really love it when I'm feeling pain. And I have a nutrition client where one of the things I like to have my nutrition clients do is they start by getting mindful, just thinking about how they feel before they eat anything. Like, before you eat, put anything in your mouth, assess what's happening for you. And she realized that every time she talked to her mom, she craved something crunchy, hard, and she would she had to almost like grind her food. Every time she noticed it. She wouldn't be craving it at all. Talk to her mom. And for me, that is not being in control of you. That is an external pain that is controlling a behavior. So that's what it was for me. It was like I realized, at one point I went to the liquor cabinet for like the 5th time, and I was like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
But I was like, this is all that I can do to not feel this.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the moment where it's like, holy curse word, I do not have control of this.
Yeah.
And so it comes down to freedom for me and that's why I do have an occasional drink now but every time I do drink now, I check in with myself first. And if I ever want a drink, for me, I know that that's because I'm in pain. Because I don't want to, because for me, it doesn't align with my goals, my health goals, and who I am. It just doesn't align normally with that. So now I check in with myself all the time and go, okay, is this being driven by something? Or is this you making this choice? So that's what it was for me. It's just, I felt like I didn't have control.
Yeah. I did want to suggest one thing, and I think I understand what you're saying, but at one point you said, we all know whenever we've crossed that line. I think we can know.
Sure.
A lot of people don't know.
Sure.
I just think about, I'm fairly old, so I got a lot of years. And I think there were tons of times that I didn't know. I could know, but I didn't know.
Sure.
Because it was just pattern. It was just how I started doing drugs when I was 9. When I was 10, 11, I didn't know. I'm just drowning. And it was all coping, And to this day, I love the smell of marijuana because it just has such memory. That was my escape. That was my own safe space. Yeah. So when I smell pot today, I was like, and I'm like, wait. And of course, growing up, my kids were just like, Dad, you can't say that. We're faith-based people, and you're sitting there oohing and ahhing over the smell of pot. You and I, we built fire together the other night. I'm like, it smells like weed. It's a good day. Like, oh, sorry, I wasn't supposed to say that. But it's true. It's stuck in my psyche.
Yeah, absolutely.
Forever. So I think we can know. I think so many people don't know just because we don't.
I agree. Yeah.
We're not aware. We're not tuned in to ourselves as far as what's happening.
Yeah.
Whereas, I think that's the power of the three phrases go,
Yep.
What's happening for me there? What am I missing? What am I missing? I think I'm missing something. What's happening? And then we find ourselves.
Agreed.
Then, of course, as you say, we can then co-regulate. And there's so much power in that, but it takes the slowing down. I love that you mentioned just being mindful.
Yep.
Go, okay, hold on, wait a minute, what's happening here? When I talk to my mom on the phone, dang, that happens every time. What am I missing there? And just to discover yourself, what's driving that.
Yeah, because if she wouldn't have been mindful, she wouldn't have recognized that pattern. So she didn't know that was happening. Yeah, you're right.
And I think people go for years and years or a lifetime.
Absolutely.
Without having a clue.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
Totally. So one of the things that has caught me in what you've been describing, we hear a lot, there's pushback on people not wanting to understand their emotions.
Sure.
Because they don't want to identify the pain.
Totally.
And what you have described is you were in pain all the time and you didn't even realize how much pain you were in. And that is what was the fuel behind the coping. And so it wasn't until you could actually identify the pain that you were able to get on the other side and take control of what was happening.
Absolutely.
So can you kind of describe what that process looked like and what that shift even felt like?
Like processing the pain,
processing the pain and those moments of wow, I was in more pain than I even thought that I was. Because people don't realize you are walking around feeling all of these things, whether you realize you feel them or not.
Yep.
But once you can actually identify them and process them, that's where you get the power.
Absolutely. I'll say this. It was horrible. It was a horrible few months. It was not fun. And so if anybody's thinking about it, don't do it by yourself. Co-regulate. If I didn't have my wife, it wouldn't have happened. So I'll give you an example. We walk into a restaurant. This is about a month and a half into it. And we sit down and I'm on a date with my wife, which we don't get to do a ton because we have 4 kids and we're busy and some guilt in that we don't do it more. But, and I'm just sitting there and I'm just flooded with pain and I start crying and she's like, what's happening for you? I'm like, I don't know, but I'm in pain. This is so painful right now. And I begin to just ask myself what I'm looking around. I'm like, and part of it is because those environments, restaurants and times with friends were a joy point because I was drinking, but they were a pain experience and I didn't know it. And so I had just entered into this space that I could historically numb and feel some joy, but that wasn't there. And I didn't have the ability to do that. And so all I was left with is all of the pain that I was feeling. And so, it was intense. It was like constant. And if I didn't have the tools, I don't think I would have been able to do it. Cause it was just a constant processing. Like I would be shocked at situations I would walk into and feel pain. It was like, I did not think this was like, I think of myself as a pretty social person, but almost every social interaction I had was painful.
Wow.
But I didn't know that was firing for me. And we actually, then this is, some sad in this, but we used to host all the time, partially, I think, because I was looking for an excuse to drink. That almost completely went out the window when I stopped because it was so painful for me. It was just and there's a lot of sad in that. And I'm coming back around, because I'm learning how to process it. But yeah, things that I thought were joy experiences were not.
Yeah.
They were simply joy because I was numbing it and they were painful. So that was the process.
And I do have to interject there because, again, you say these things so smoothly, which is beautiful. But the vast majority of people go out to dinner, either one of them, but he starts shedding tears. First of all, that's taboo. It's like, what? You're crying. Babe, what's the matter? What's wrong?
Yeah.
Why are you crying? And the other backs up very quickly and is like, I just had a bad day or whatever. And nothing authentic, nothing vulnerable gets conveyed at all.
Yep.
So again, the power of the tools, the power of the connection codes that Christina is able to just get curious,
No, totally.
not in judgment,
Yep.
Not in judging, but just going, ooh, babe, what's happening? I felt like I'm missing it. She was sure missing it.
Yeah.
She's like, I want to date. This is so special. I know Christina. And then she looks over and her manly man husband is shedding tears like, what's happening here?
Yep.
And just the beauty of that, but how weird that is. I mean, culturally, that doesn't happen. That's a tiny, tiny percentage. We're on a quest to convert everybody to the connection codes, so it'll change. But now that's very, very uncommon that it would play out that way. And it would end up being an incredible win.
So beautiful.
That's what lights me up.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah, that's one of my thoughts as well for people that are listening. If you find yourself in a relationship where either you or your partner is currently masking their pain with some type of coping mechanism, you've listed many of them, how can the other partner come along and partner and respond? Because I think back to a season in our life where I've definitely coped and masked pain with different things.
Like we all have.
But the season that almost broke us was Wes was masking his pain and hiding. And so that's also a clue. If you feel like you need to hide something, that's usually a very big signal that, okay, I'm probably using this, I don't have control of myself if I feel like I need to hide it. And so he, that all came to light, and I was in so much pain from that I placed a horrible judgment on him. And my reaction to him, luckily, he was in a space of healing. Otherwise, my reaction to him could have very easily driven him further down that hole. And I'm just super grateful that now we have the tools and we partner and we can communicate. But so how can a partner come along and not feel like they're placing a judgment? Like what did Christina do so well for you?
Oh man. Unfortunately, she's had to do this for me a lot, and God gave me that woman. She sat in curiosity. She could see I was in pain, and she could see that, and also she really knows who I am. Like, I trust her more than I trust me. And she expressed her fears. She didn't hold back. She didn't pretend it wasn't affecting her. but she got real curious and just let me be weak around her and I think if she wouldn't have let me be weak around her, exactly what you're saying would have happened. I would have hid it. I would have probably gone further down the road and tried to figure out how to, because then that's painful, right? My person judging me for being vulnerable.
Yes,
Totally.
yes.
I mean, that's my biggest fear.
Yeah.
My biggest fear. And I think that's why any of us hide, is because our biggest fear is being left, for being weak.
Yeah.
So that's what, I mean, and at some point, maybe she can share her side of the story. She was her to me. She was curious about me and didn't hold back from telling me what was happening for her.
Right.
But definitely even her, so she didn't wait for me to tell her what was happening for me.
Yeah.
She could, especially after a couple months in, she knew what that looked like, because it was subtle sometimes, because my other coping mechanism was disassociation. And I was on a quest to not do that either. And she could see me start to check out and she'd be like, hey, what's happening? What's going on? And I'm like, oh, there's just a lot of pain. There's a lot of kids in this house.
I get that. We all do.
So I would say that's what she did. She was present. She was curious, and she shared authentically with me.
Yeah.
What was happening for her.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I think that when that judgment is placed on the partner, that is immediate. And also for the person, if it's your partner that is coping, it's easy for us to make it about us.
Absolutely.
Like what Wes was struggling with actually had nothing to do with me.
Yep.
It had zero to do with me.
Yep.
But it felt like such a personal attack on me as a person and our relationship that I made it about me.
Right.
Because also at that time, we weren't connection coders. He didn't have the tools to know how to communicate what was happening in his body.
Yep.
And so I think so often in a marriage relationship, we talk about like your partner walks through the door and they seem a little grumpy. You automatically fill in the blank for them.
That's so true.
We fill in the blank. We assume, well, they're mad at me because I burnt dinner or whatever. When what they're experiencing typically doesn't even have much to do with you.
Absolutely.
And so that curiosity key is everything when you can actually find out what is the driver for you. Instead of assuming that it's you, that you're the problem, find out what is happening with your partner and use those phrases.
Also, and I feel some fear of commentating your experience too much, but I would suggest, I know what you're saying, but that's not you being weak, that's you being powerful.
Sure.
I just don't want the listeners to be like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be weak. I think that's powerful that you know, the mindfulness, that you relax into yourself, the curiosity for yourself so that you can convey it to Christina. And then following what I was saying before, that the vast majority of people, Christina is going to go, babe, we have 4 beautiful children. You know, we're so blessed. Life is good.
Absolutely.
God loves us.
Yeah.
We love each other. We have a great house, you know, whatever. And Elijah disappears even more. And a great intention, good, you know, motivation, desire behind it. And the vast majority of us hinder the other person by, again, we don't say those words, but by saying, stop experiencing what you're experiencing. Oh, and by the way, shut up about it. And we think that we're doing good. We think we're helping, and we're actually making it much, much worse. So that's just so powerful that she's able to relax into it. And like you say, convey her fear. Like, whew, I could hear there's a bunch of fear when you say those things. Yeah, she's a real human too. You didn't marry a cyborg. So, yeah, she can process it.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Yeah. Yes, she did. She's amazing. We love her.
That's amazing.
So you shared what the process looked like, the realization that something needed to shift. And then you shared how painful those months were of using the tools and discovering yourself. So can you give me a timeline of when that time period was and then where you're at today?
So the really, really painful season was probably about 3 months long, if I'm honest. And then it moved into, there's this kind of like shift, and I try to get my nutrition clients to do this too, where you can replace short-term like joy or dopamine hits for this more longer-term joy. And it motivates all sorts of things. A college student, you know, staying up studying for the joy of, you know, getting the degree. They're abstaining from a short-term joy. And it's about 3 months, it started to shift where the idea of having a short-term reprieve of pain or a short-term spike of joy or dopamine, that was like not as appealing as this kind of long-term self-discovery, self-improvement health journey I was on, to where I was like, yeah, I'm in pain and I feel a drive to drink, but the other trumped it, where it was like, yeah, but I love not waking up with shame in the morning.
Yeah.
I love getting good sleep. I love knowing I was totally present for my kids and I didn't have anything impacting the way I parented last night. And that about 3 months in it's like this scale, it began to tip in the favor of this long-term journey of just actually being the best version of me and being the best dad and the best husband and the best friend that I could be. So now I'm at a spot, like I said, where I'm always checking in with myself. I'm always getting really curious, and that long-term joy really does trump all the time. It's just like, I just like feeling better about myself, about who I am as a person. And I like not feeling like a jerk all the time and flooded with shame all the time. So, it's a great, beautiful spot to be in. It's really fun. Not that there's not still pain and still areas where I'm like, oh, honey, I really want to drink. She's like, I get that. She's like, what's happening? And it's over in 30 seconds. And, it does get quicker. I do want to say that if you're on the journey of whatever it is, it gets quicker and quicker and quicker. I promise you that. Yeah.
Well, and again, you say 30 seconds in passing, but it's true. Because if you'd said to me 25 years ago, 35 years ago, hey, dude, that 3-week brutal conflict you just had with Phyllis? It could have been 30 seconds. I'd have been like, shut up, you little smart aleck. You'd been a little kid then, I'd probably hit you. Because I wouldn't have believed it. It's like, that. What do you think? I'm stupid? Why would I allow turmoil to exist for 3 hours, 3 days, 3 weeks if it could have been 30 seconds? I'm not that stupid. Turns out I was, but I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And I'm mesmerized by this, that it's possible. And we sit with a lot of couples, and when we tell them that, they just like smirk. They're like, yeah, right. You don't understand our relationship. 30 seconds is absurd. That's not possible. And then they start experiencing it, and they're like, oh, my gosh.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It used to take 15 hours to be at war, and now we do it. And again, even if, who cares if it's 2 minutes, 5 minutes, my gosh, that's, you do always tell people to do the math. 2 minutes times X equals 3 days. That's what the multiplier you're eliminating. That, no, you just connect in 60 seconds.
Yeah. So wonderful. Yeah.
I'm curious now, since you can identify the pain, but you're not numbing it anymore, which also means you're not numbing the joy anymore.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Do you find yourself, is it easier to identify the joy now than it was previously?
I would say it's different. So a lot of the joy that I was experiencing was coping. So now the joy is in life. It's in these moments that you have that are beautiful all the time. And so I guess the answer is yes. I see the joy again, rather than always looking for this other thing that's going to give me the joy. It's like I'm sitting in it. Like I'm sitting in it right now. It's like, and that was part of my journey. Is like I had this, I don't know, it's not really a vision, but just like this daydream, and I was seeing myself and all of these beautiful moments, and everyone had a drink in my hand. And I was like, what is happening for me that this beautiful moment has to be accompanied by a coping mechanism? What is the thing that's happening for me that I can't just enjoy? My life is beautiful, and I really externally have no reason to be in pain, but I was.
Yeah.
And so, the joy of life has returned for sure. And just recognizing those small joys and big joys, there's all over the place. Yeah. So,
you shared that with me the other day, and I don't know that if you use the word fog, but I loved the way you said that during that time, it's like your coping mechanism the drinking kind of put you in a place where you didn't see the little things with your kids.
Absolutely.
You missed those moments. And and I think about, like, even if alcohol is not the coping mechanism, if it's, you think, wow, what is it in my life that keeps me from noticing the little moments? Is it my obsession with food, or, television, or, video games, or something, or exercise even, where I'm missing the moments with my kids. I'm missing the moments even with myself, like to be able to sit in silence, to be able to, to get up early and watch a sunrise. I thought that was really something when you shared that with me the other day. Just, I think we don't always think about the moments that we're missing.
Absolutely.
Because of something that we are so, I don't know, if obsessed with, or because it seemed like, very much it became your coping mechanism, but it was also, it became a habit.
That
like
too.
you couldn't
Absolutely.
wait to come home and have that drink. And so then you weren't necessarily coming home and saying to the kids, hey, let's go for a walk, guys.
Exactly.
Because you were doing that other thing first. And then that became the thing, right?
Absolutely.
And I don't know. I think that's really powerful, because all of us could look at our lives and go, okay, what is it that we maybe run to, maybe go to, where then that really leaves a lot of people out.
Absolutely.
Like leaves a lot of people out, because if that is your one thing and it's not everybody else's,
well,
it's like, wow, then what about the rest? What about all those moments that could be happening?
That makes me think of one more coping mechanism that we have not talked about yet that I think is massive, and that is scrolling on your phone. That has become one of the biggest, easiest to access because it's free. We don't feel like it damages our body. Like, and habit forming. We wake up, we grab it, we go to bed, we have it. And that is a major coping mechanism. And we don't even recognize it as that.
Agreed.
But it is the mindless scrolling on either social media or shopping or Amazon. It doesn't have to be one specific thing. It is mindless scrolling. And that is so much more painful because you're missing the moments. Like you saying that is what made me realize we're missing the moments.
And we're robbing our people of identity all the time. We're communicating you are less valuable to me than the thing. It was part of my journey is I took all social media off my phone, and I stopped putting my phone by my bed. So I say I got rid of alcohol, but I really got rid of every like I felt a draw to get rid of everything that was numbing pain, including what I call like armoring up. So giving you the version of me that I think you want. So I would put that on for people, and I decided to get rid of all of that. And so even the scrolling, and I found myself in these moments with my kids where I wasn't distracted anymore. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. This is like, and they're tiny. They're tiny moments. And I was missing them all. I was missing them all. And so much guilt and shame in that because they're getting old. But yeah, I agree. It's all the things that we do to numb pain, and you don't realize that you're numbing pain until you stop doing them. And then you're like, ooh, it's painful just to sit here with my kid. Why is that painful? Weird.
Wow.
And I think for a lot of people, the great miss is that you weren't a wretched human being. It's not that you're beating your kids up. You're neglecting them. They get to eat every third day. You're doing the things. So externally, and if somebody's, writing your resume, looks great. Everything's good. And I think anybody could argue in a court of law that Elijah's doing great. But it's actually there's so much better. And
absolutely.
There's a book, I think I read it one time, called The Enemy of Great is Good or something like that. Isn't that a book, Terry?
It sounds like one.
Yeah.
I feel like I've heard this before.
That's hilarious.
Anyway, it's just so easy. And I think a lot of people do that. They go, what? I'm not beating up my wife. I'm not unemployed for 3 years. And so and people don't realize, oh my goodness, there's so there's this, whatever minimum standard that everyone's like, I'm meeting that. and just not realizing that, oh my goodness, there's so much space above that.
Absolutely.
That you can get to, but we're not even aware of it. And we did not see our parents live that, and we don't see people around us living that. So we're just like, what? I'm above average. I'm doing pretty darn good.
Yeah. Well, and I think the reason we do that is because of we're comparing our lives to everyone else rather than looking inside and saying, what does the best version of me look like?
Yeah.
And that's been my thing for a while. It's like, I'm just here to be the best I can be, a little bit better every day. And whatever that is for Glenn or Phyllis or Tira, it's like that it is for them. But for me, this is a choice. And I think it is hard to not put your judgments on other people. But I'm just this is for me, I'm going to be the best.
Well, I love, as we kind of close this out today, to me, what's powerful that we can all take away is, are we missing those little moments? Is there something in our life that is bigger? And it may not be even what in this moment you see as coping. It may just be habit.
Yep.
Like you even bringing up just scrolling on our phones. Are we so into that we are missing those little moments with the people around us?
Yep.
And even if you are alone, for you listeners that are single and live alone, are you missing the moments in life?
Yep.
I was talking to a friend recently who realized she's an incredible artist, but it's so much easier just to turn on the TV. It's so much easier just to scroll on your phone instead of sitting in silence and then going towards the art.
Wow.
It's like, and it's just fascinating. To me, it's that same thing. We're missing those little moments because we go towards something else. We go towards a habit. We go towards a coping mechanism. We go towards something that then is taking up such a big part of our life. And I love that. I think that that's something, on all the levels that you have shared today, because there's definitely going to be some of us who listen and go, ooh, what do I use to cope with pain? I need to really examine that and find the pain, which goes on to this journey anyway of emotion and learning how to find our emotions. I mean, we work with a lot of people who don't even understand that concept. They don't understand emotion. They don't understand what's firing in their brains. They don't understand what breaks down their bodies through this unprocessed emotion. And so a lot of people are starting at the very beginning, and then there's others who have been diving into this for a while. And I love just what you shared today, because to me, that takes people to an even higher level of realizing, okay, am I just ignoring the pain and masking it with things, masking it, with what we would also consider a joy, right? A lot of people, oh man, I love cocktail hour, or I love, whatever. And to realize, okay, but is that become a coping mechanism, or is it masking or even fogging up the rest of life, and you're missing those little moments. So love that.
So good.
Totally. Yeah. If you feel like, okay, either one, if you're someone who says, I don't feel pain, I'm not in pain, maybe that's a sign that you are using something to cope and numb that pain, because we are all hit with pain. We feel every emotion every single day. And that is my favorite thing about what we do, is because it teaches us that it's not going to stay. I'm going to feel pain every day, and I'm going to feel joy every day.
Absolutely.
And if I can identify what those things feel like, then they can come and they can go, and I'm not just sitting in it anymore.
Love that.
Or if you feel like you need to hide any type of behavior, that's a moment to clue in to what is happening for you. And if you're the spouse of a person who is struggling, processing and identifying their emotion, and they're using other tools to numb that, I just ask you to get curious with your partner.
So good.
And to not condemn them or point your finger at them, because that will drive them further away. But instead get curious and reach out for help. That is why we obviously have Dr. Glenn and Phyllis as coaches and counselors, but we have certified other coaches, so no one has to do their journey alone. That is the entire point of what we want, because we don't want you to go through it alone.
Absolutely.
And so if you have not already downloaded our free core emotion wheel, that is the tool that Elijah and Christina used to process and identify what was happening in their bodies so they could communicate with each other And so they could process what was happening and not live in it, not be controlled by it.
Yep.
So you can get that through our show notes. There's a link down below where you can download it for free, watch a video and use it for yourself. And if you're like, okay, I need extra support, I need somebody to walk me through this process, you can go to connectioncodes.co/coaches. And that is where you'll find Elijah and our other certified coaches and Dr. Glenn and Phyllis.
Yep.
And you can have someone walk with you through that season of what Elijah has described. Because when you can get to the other side of it, you trade in that short-term joy for that long-term joy. And the benefits are substantial.
Life-changing.
Life-changing. Elijah, thank you so much,
So much joy.
for being here, for sharing your story with us. It impacts so many people. And I know we have you on for another podcast that's going to come out soon. And so just thank you.
So glad to be here.
Thank you to our listeners for being here every week. Your reviews, I always say this, but they really do mean the world to us. Your emails. We love getting to know you, and thank you so much for sharing these episodes. And we do all of this because
you need this.
You deserve this. So let's do this.
Let's do this.
Joy.